Hello there. Who doesn't love a hero? Your Supermans, your Spider-Mans, or your Captain Americas. Those selfless guys that strive to make the world a better place. And who doesn't love anti-heroes? Your Batmans, your Vegetas, or your Dexter Morgans. The good guys with just a little bit of bad in them, and may even succumb to their inner evil, or are just constantly trying to keep it in check. And who doesn't love villains? Your Jokers, your Maleficents, or your Freezers. Those twisted bastards that take absolute delight in inflicting pain and spreading misery across the world. But in my opinion, there's another type of villain that I feel is a little under-discussed. The anti-villain. Now, what is an anti-villain? Well, an anti-hero is a hero that lacks certain heroic qualities. An anti-villain is someone whose alignment is evil, but perhaps he's honorable, and though he does bad things for bad reasons, he's merciful, and there are a number of things that he refuses to do to the heroes. Or maybe he does bad things, but he's completely sincere in his motivations, which makes sense even to the heroes. Or maybe he does bad things for bad reasons and isn't very honorable, but his backstory is so unbearably tragic that we just can't help but sympathize with him. Today, I'll be taking a look at those characters. This is the top 8 anti-villains from film and television. Honorable mention, Auntie-Entity, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Auntie has all the makings for a good anti-villain. She creates a semi-functioning society. She herself follows Bartertown's insane laws. She's also fair and merciful. It's just that Beyond Thunderdome is really not a good movie, so she can't really make the list. Honorable mention, Eric Cartman, South Park. Though he does side with the more heroic boys and does have some altruism, he's perhaps too classically villainous. Honorable mention, Darth Vader, Star Wars. Vader doesn't make the list because he's really more of a tragic villain than an anti-villain. Still a great character though. Honorable mention, Sandman, Spider-Man 3. The pieces are there, but Spider-Man 3 suffered from too much plot and that affects Sandman negatively. Honorable mention, pretty much anyone from Captain America Civil War, depending on whose side you're on. Either Team Cap or Team Iron Man are the villains, but they're both portrayed sympathetically enough that neither side are really a bad person. Not even the real villain Zemo. Okay, now for the actual top 8. Number 8, Rameses from the Prince of Egypt.
Why can't things be the way they were before?
Voiced by Ray Fiennes, the son of an overbearing father that puts a tremendous amount of pressure for continuing the dynasty on him. And after his brother returns to free the Hebrews from slavery, he can bring himself to comply. What's tragic is that he still loves his brother and doesn't really want to fight him. Yes, I had hoped. Number 7, Magneto from the X-Men film series.
I stuck with you all the way. Would have killed the professor if he'd given me the chance.
Charles Xavier did more for mutants than you'll ever know. My single greatest regret is that he had to die for our dream to live.
Humans use your blood, your genes, to create a weapon that wipes us all out. I was only doing what I thought necessary to secure our future.
Ian McKellen or Michael Fassbender? Why not both? He may be a Holocaust survivor who basically became Hitler, but he just wants to protect his people from experiencing the oppression that he's experienced. and he's even willing to sacrifice a few mutant lives for the entire mutant race. He's even very friendly with who he should regard as his greatest enemy, Professor X. X-Men First Class was probably when this character was at his most sympathetic. We see him help form the X-Men, and we see him tell an insecure woman and a disfigured man. Yes, he is disfigured. He looks like that because of a failed experiment. Magneto tells them to take pride in their appearance. Here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to count to 3, and then I'm going to move the coin. 1, 2, 3. All those years wasted fighting each other, Charles. To have a precious few of them back. Number 6. Thanos from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
When I'm done, half of humanity will still exist.
Portrayed by Josh Brolin, Thanos was teased at the end of the Avengers back in 2012, so this is a villain that's been built up for 6 years. 6 fucking years. And he does not disappoint. He's searching for the Infinity Stones because he does not trust the universe to wisely use its finite resources. And he saw this happen to his own civilization. He saw a population that grew so massive that it used up all of its resources and died out. So he feels that his mad genocide is justified. Even though we don't agree with him, he's seen it work. He truly believes that this is best for the universe, but that doesn't make it morally acceptable. And we see that he'll do anything to do what he feels is right, even sacrificing his own daughter. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Number 5. General Hummel from The Rock.
These men died for their country and they weren't even given a goddamn military burial. The situation is unacceptable.
Portrayed by Ed Harris, General Hummel is a Vietnam veteran that uses nukes to hold an entire city hostage because of all the soldiers that died in Vietnam that the US government ignored. He wants the government to acknowledge these fallen men and to pay some money to their families. We later learn in the movie that he never intended on using the nukes. He's a well-intentioned extremist. He's fighting back against the country that he feels betrayed him and the men he fought alongside with. See, Michael Bay, you can have interesting characters in your movies. Ladies and gentlemen, you're being detained against your will. For that I apologize. It's not our intention in any way to harm you. You will not be detained 1 minute longer than necessary to complete our mission. Number 4. Sandor the Hound Clegane from Game of Thrones.
Why are you always so hateful?
You'll be glad of the hateful things I do someday when you're queen. And I'm all that stands between you and your beloved king.
Portrayed by Rory McCann, the Hound is one of Game of Thrones' best characters. But he's also somewhat difficult to talk about. All at once he's sympathetic, his older brother shoved his face into a fireplace. And utterly detestable, he kills a small boy in the 2nd episode. And pathetic, he's pyrophobic. And frightening, he can kill several men all by himself with not so much effort. That's rather impressive of a character that can elicit those different kinds of reactions from the audience. We see him kill people in cold blood and say that all men love it. And we also see his soft side from his interactions with Sansa and Arya Stark. Also, his scenes with Arya kind of reminded me of the scenes between Piccolo and Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. And even though he's something of a monster, we can see that this person truly does want to be the knight from the stories that he himself mocks to Sansa. And he does get better over the course of the series. I'm gonna miss him when he's dead. We ask the Father to judge us with mercy. We ask the Mother to Fuck it, I don't remember the rest. Sorry you're dead. Number 3, Zamasu from Dragon Ball Super.
人間とは本当に守るべき存在なのかと。これまで人間の営みを数知れず見てきました。栄え、争い、滅び、それを永遠に繰り返す。私にはそれらがとても愚かなことに感じられるの。
This is interesting. Zamasu is actually 4 different people. He's Goku Black, present Zamasu, future Zamasu, and merged Zamasu. Voiced by Nozawa Masako and Miki Shinichiro. What makes Zamasu interesting is also what makes him unique among Dragon Ball villains. The villains are either comedic or arrogant badass murderers. Though we do see arrogance in Goku Black, who debuted first, we see Zamasu start off as a well-meaning apprentice who is wary of Ningen, but not actually malevolent. Yet. And I do feel the need to mention that this story arc does involve time travel. So if this already sounds convoluted, well, there you go. We see his turn to the dark side over the course of the Future Trunks arc. During his interactions with Son Goku, who he believes is far stronger than any human can be trusted to be, and his interactions with his master Gosu, who fears that his apprentice may be turning down a dark path, and tries explaining that mortals can't just be exterminated, and says that gods are also imperfect. But Zamasu only comes to the conclusion that the gods are useless, and that the universe will only prosper if he is its sole occupant. Times 2. And ultimately 1. Zamasu is given spectacular vocal performances by Nozawa Masako, who is nothing short of frightening, which is even more impressive when you remember that she's a 70-year-old Asian woman. How awesome is that? Not to mention Miki Shinichiro, whose smooth voice suits the character perfectly. Going back to Magneto, Miki actually voices Michael Fassbender's Magneto for the Japanese dub of the X-Men films. Most of Dragon Ball's villains are evil because they're evil, but Zamasu affirms that he's right the entire time, and even raises some good points. But in the end he becomes an insane eldritch abomination that the king of everything has to erase. Mortals do not succumb to evil, they are the evil. They create it and spread it with minds they shouldn't possess. Number 2. Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2.
I will not die a monster!
Portrayed by Alfred Molina, Doc Ock is a scientist that does... Honestly, I don't really remember what his field is. But he's trying to create a source of unlimited energy, and for a few seconds it seems like he succeeded. He creates a miniature sun to take energy from and provide to the people. But he accidentally kills his wife and turns himself into a monster with 4 mechanical snake-like arms attached to his back. But he's not giving up. He's going to restart his experiment, and on his way he's robbing banks and chucking around old ladies. It's interesting to see a character that acts misanthropic, while his end goal is very philanthropic. And when it's clear that his experiment is going to destroy the world, he sacrifices himself in an act of redemption. Molina's performance is both sympathetic and menacing, and Doc Ock deserves the number 2 spot. The power of the sun in the palm of my hand. Number 1. Loki from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I thought you dead. Did you mourn?
We all did. Our father.
Your father. He did tell you my true parentage, did he not?
We were raised together. We played together. We fought together. Do you remember none of that?
I remember a shadow. Living in the shade of your greatness. I remember you tossing me into an abyss. I who was and should be king.
Portrayed by Tom Hiddleston, being one of the Phase 1 villains, Marvel obviously had something of an uninteresting villain's problem all the way back then. Loki, on the other hand, started off interesting, and even if that was his only appearance, he'd still have ranked among one of Marvel's better villains. But he stuck around for several years and became not only Marvel's best villain, but also one of Marvel's most compelling characters, while also giving Tom Hiddleston his breakout role. The adopted son of basically Boss God, when he learns of this, he resents his family, believing that they never favored him and that he'd never acquired the throne. Over the course of the series, we see him try to take over Earth, go from being imprisoned to liberating Asgard, to freeing slaves and destroying Asgard. But that was Thor's idea, destroying Asgard. He has an inferiority complex. He's always trying to achieve greatness and always failing, and is always trying to redeem himself. The God of Mischief has become a great character and deserves the #1 spot. You know it all makes sense now, why you favored Thor all these years, because no matter how much you claim to love me, you can never have a frost giant sitting on the throne of Asgard. And that's the list. Do you agree, disagree, did I forget anyone? Leave a comment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Sayonara.